So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Today we're going to be talking about coercion under Section 8A1 of the National Labor Relations Act, and it's a pretty important thing, and it's something that Starbucks got caught in hot water for, and we need to talk about it. So real quick first, the Section 8A1 of the Act makes it an unfair labor practice for an employer to interfere with, restrain, or coerce employees in the exercise of the rights guaranteed in Section 7 of the Act. And there's a lot of examples from the National Labor Relations Board about this, right? You can't threaten employees with adverse consequences, such as closing the workplace or more onerous working conditions if they support a union, engage in a union, or select a union to represent them. You can't promise employee benefits if they reject the union. You can't imply a promise of benefits by soliciting grievances from employees during union organizing campaigns. You can't confer benefits on employees during union organizing campaigns. That gets people in a lot of hot water because they'll do things like give a raise to everyone during the middle of the union organizing campaign. And the National Labor Relations Board does not like that. You also can't prohibit employees from talking about the union during working time. You can't coercively question employees about their own or coworkers' union activities or sympathies. And that is considered coercive under Section 8A1 when employees are trying to exercise their rights guaranteed in Section 7. And so that is, I mean, it's a really broad thing, and it's something that companies regularly run afoul of. And we've seen that, time and time out again out of Starbucks. It just doesn't seem like I can't tell if they're intentionally doing this with their managers or their managers are poorly trained. I think that there's a really good chance it's a little bit of both. It seems, quite frankly, that because of the amount of stores and the nature of the business, that they probably aren't the best trained. I think that that's, a general broad brush on restaurant managers in general. And so I think that that's part of it. But Starbucks has had these quite often. I do think that Starbucks Workers United is one of those that will pounce on these opportunities. And Starbucks has had a lot of these, right? This has just been kind of an ongoing saga with respect to Starbucks. And so we're going to talk about this particular situation. There was a Starbucks in Liverpool, New York. It's called the Clay Store. It's outside of Syracuse and it has about 20 or 30 employees. The Starbucks Workers United released a statement on Twitter congratulating the Clay Store partners for filing a representative election. And what started all of this was Michaela Maciariello. She was a barista at the Clay store in October of 2020. And there was a person who was the store's district manager, and their name was Solido. And before they started the union campaign, Solido had only come around or talked to Maciariello 5 times during the course of the 2.5 years of employment. But once the representation petition went on, they got an uptick in the store, and Solido started working out of the Clay store about 1 to 2 times a week, parking herself right in front of the front doors. And it sounds like she spent most of the time working in the Clay store, working on her laptop, and ultimately left around 3 to 4. Sure, prior to the announcement, Maciariello had seen her about 5 times, and then she saw Solido in the store 8 to 10 times after the announcement. Taylor Strauss was in the same boat, was a barista at the Clay store working about 20 to 28 hours a week. Rarely saw Solido in the Clay store prior to them, but then, obviously after the petition started seeing him regularly, petitioned so that she could watch, Solido could watch the store. And at one point, a week before the election, they decided to Solido wanted to talk to Strauss and sit down. Strauss said that they were indifferent about the union and wanted more research, but Solido said that the store employees would lose their benefits if they chose to unionize, specifically surrounding a tuition benefit for Arizona State University. Any respondent employees who work more than 20 hours a week were getting that benefit. But the Solido said that if the employees unionized, they would get fewer hours and less pay, including their annual tenure-based raises if they selected the union as their collective bargaining agreement. And that's ultimately where this ran afoul. It's such a classic mistake that I'm really surprised, maybe not surprised, that that Starbucks made this mistake, because It is again one of those things. It's a sort of textbook. It's in the videos that you can't make promises that ultimately coerce or interfere with, restrain employees exercising their rights in Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act. And so, you see here that the law judge found that Starbucks was guilty with threatening employees with the loss of pay and benefits, including a reduction in hours pay, loss of annual raises, and loss of the Arizona State tuition benefit, as well as more closely monitoring unit employees by stationing Solido there in the lobby, as well as soliciting employee grievances. And so because they were doing it, and this is ultimately it, right? This is what Starbucks Workers United is seeking to do. So the Starbucks had to post a notice in the Clay store in the usual manner, as well as distribute by electronics, and that's it's a notice of an unfair labor practice charge. In addition, they have to have reading of training and notice and training for the supervisors. But because Solido moved on and moved to another company, and high-level management officials didn't openly participate in it, they didn't see a more pervasive situation with respect to the rest of Starbucks. So, what do you think? Do you feel as if this is coercive? Is taking away tuition a coercive thing? I will tell you, it's pretty textbook in the history of the National Labor Relations Board. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.